Welcome to Death Holler, the place of haunted hearts and haunted homes. We welcome you to Death Manor, the home that boasts the most ghosts. Come on in. We've been expecting you. Take a look around. You might see someone that you recognize. Do you hear those voices? That's just the Reverend Dr. Death and Llareyna. They're so happy to see you. Sit back and relax. Make yourself at home. Your new home. And remember, when you're in Death Holler, listener discretion is always advised. We hope you enjoy the show.
So, how are things going, Llareyna?
I've been doing some real spooky season things lately, and I'm so excited.
What does that mean? You've been out there hitting up the targets and all that to get, or no, it'd be Home Depot trying to get that 12-foot skeleton, I believe.
Oh, I want that 12-foot skelly so bad. I have so many regrets from I want to say 2020, maybe. Yeah, I don't know if it was 2020. I know it was COVID time, so maybe. And my child really wanted the 12-foot skelly. I was like, let's get the mausoleum. And don't get me wrong, I love my mausoleum entrance. It goes perfectly around, the entrance to my house. But I haven't been able to get my hands on a 12-foot skelly. And to say the least, regrets have been had. But no, Spirit Halloween is open.
Okay.
They have a lot of Killer Clowns merch this year.
Interesting.
Yes, Killer Clowns from Outer Space merch.
Yeah, they had that as a haunted house down there at Universal Orlando, like in 2019, the very first year that me and my wife went to that, the Halloween Horror Nights. And I love that house and all the merch they had that year. And I'm really jealous because you all have out there, you have Killer Clowns too.
Oh, shit.
Because they got the Chiodo brothers to come out and give them what they would have done as a sequel, and they took those ideas and made a house out of it, and that's amazing.
Yeah, they're gonna have La Llorona too, from what you showed me, and it looks so fucking good. And I'm just like, I don't believe we're going to make it down there. It wasn't in the plans. We usually go every other year, and there's no way we're not going to do it the way you and I discussed, where you pay for the fast passes. There's no way we're not going to do that. And it's so expensive, but it's so worth it. I mean, to just skip right into, you basically just walk right into the house. So,
yeah, I don't know if it's as bad out in California, but down in Orlando, where they've got so much distance between the houses, it's worth it. If nothing else, if you're doing multiple nights, like by the third or fourth night, and you're just tired of, because the lines, even if there's nobody in them, you still got to walk these queues that they've designed, and it's a bunch of switchbacks, and I mean, like, if you go to the express version, it's like a straight shot right to the house. And it's like me and my wife literally last year were just using the express just to get, even on nights where there wasn't anybody around really, just to get past, straight shot to the house, so we wouldn't have to stand or, walk that line as much.
Yeah, you're basically not into the human maze.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. Oh, those are annoying. We did a few of those before we just buckled down and bought the fucking fast passes. We were only going to Universal for one night. So at that point, and it was kind of a surprise. We weren't sure we were going to make it. I was just hoping we would. And we were like, we're not going to be able to see anything if we don't get these passes.
Yeah, it depends on when you go to. I mean, we're going in early September this year, so I'm hoping that, like, what I'm doing is we're going 3 nights. The last night is a Friday night, which is always busy, so I got express already for that. Had to. But the 2 nights before that, they got this thing called a Rush of Fear Pass, where basically for the price of less than 2 tickets, you can go the entire month of September. So why not? Even if you're only going for 3 days, it's cheaper. So we're going to go Wednesday, which is middle of the week, usually not as bad, and Thursday without express, and try to hit up different houses if it gets really bad, and then like Friday night just go through everything again. So
I'm so jealous. I did not know that so the Terror Tram, the one that I went on last year when we lost the kids, which I gotta post that on TikTok. That was insane. That's a good way to get your real fears going. But I did not know they did a Terror Tram every year.
Yeah, Hollywood does.
Yeah.
they don't do anything like that at Universal in Orlando. They don't have that set up. I mean, so it's a little bit different down there. But yeah, and you all got lucky because The Purge, I think, is a good setup for that. I've heard that they've done, well, they might have something separate than that. I've heard The Walking Dead is there every year at the one in California, and it's like a permanent thing
It's
now.
a permanent. It's been, yeah, you can go any time of year and it's there.
Yeah, and it's, I don't know, that's a little dull to me, but, because I like where they switch things up. But,
Yeah.
but the Terror Tram tends to have different things in it. I mean, because of the nature of how they've got, it's mobile and all that, they have different things there that they can't have at Orlando.
I thought The Purge was perfect because I had never been on a Terror Tram yet. The Purge one I thought worked so perfectly. You had shit on fire, you had just different scenery and everything, that it worked out so good. I don't know how they're going to make anything else, how they would make anything else work. However, apparently there's people on TikTok that did not like the Purge one, and they're like, hopefully it's better next year. And I'm like, wow, I really enjoyed it. And I had made a comment on TikTok. The comment alone is blowing up. But I made a comment of like, oh my God, that one time I lost my kids during the Purge, it was the stampede, and everyone was like, oh my God, did you find them? No, I didn't find them. They're still at Universal Studios. Hopefully their spirits will be working there this coming season.
And you'll be able to claim them then.
Yeah, I'll go back for them. Don't worry, everyone.
So did you actually end up getting anything from Spirit Halloween?
No, not yet, because I want everything, and I can't afford it right now. But the kids did get some spooky shirts. Daughter got one of those. I don't know if everyone's familiar with that artist that does it looks like old-time school books of, learning how to count and doing basic things, but instead it's very demonic stuff. I want to say his name's Frank something. Anyways, I could be completely off about that, but she got one of those, and the last one she got was Adopt a Familiar. So it was a black cat.
Oh, okay.
And the one she got this time was a demon cat one. And my son got a trick-or-treat themed shirt. And they have really, really upped the merch for a trick-or-treat franchise. And all amazing shit, too.
I just wish that they would hurry up and make a sequel. Well, I don't want them to hurry, but I want them to make a sequel at some point. And if they keep throwing those shitty, I mean, I'm sorry, people might love them, those Godzilla movies out to Mike Dartery, and like he keeps getting distracted, I'm going to be upset. I want my Halloween sequel now.
Yeah, I mean,
or I want
Trick
my
or Treat.
Trick or Treat sequel.
Oh, I knew what you meant, but because that's the ultimate Halloween film. But
yes,
I mean, there's got to be a reason he hasn't jumped on it. He wants it to be just as amazing as the first, and a lot of people are like really betting on this thing being amazing.
Yeah, and the problem is, I mean, he's got a pseudo sequel already built. He's got like a comic, it's a graphic novel if you want to call it that, a series of comics that like showed what he would have did in a second movie. And the theme is not as coherent, as well put together as the first one. So I don't think it would do as well if he goes straight off of that comic. It's not a bad comic. There's actually good things in it. And some of them are actually, the horror is ratcheted up quite a bit more. It's almost more like a Tales from the Dark Side type situation than the original Trick or Treat movie. But I feel like he's going to need to, like, for fans of the original, he's going to need something a little bit more coherent to tie it together than what he's got in those comics, because there's not the overall story that, like in the first one that kind of ties everybody together.
Yeah, I don't know. It was such a good and iconic first one. I'm almost afraid of a second one to come out, but it's Mike Dougherty, so I think I'm going to have a little bit more faith.
Yeah, I mean, he's done Krampus, so I mean, if he was going to really shit the bed, that movie would have been it. I mean, as far as, doing that, and I feel like he knocked that out of the park too for what it was.
He has not disappointed us yet.
Speaking of that, in a similar sense, I seen a movie yesterday that I have to, brag about, because it's not common that you get on a streaming service and you see a movie and like from the trailer, you're like, I got to watch this thing. But Day Shift with Jamie Foxx and Snoop Dogg of all people. And I think Dave Franco's the other major, or third star in the movie. I loved it. I love that movie. I mean, it's not the best thing ever, but like, think Blade, but with the humor ratcheted up. And that's what you got with it.
Yeah.
And it's not just the comparisons that Jamie Foxx is a black guy, like Wesley Snipes. It's not that. It's the fact that he is a blue collar style vampire hunter going out there and and just kicking these vampires' ass. And I mean, it's the lore is well done in it. They've got the setup for a whole series of sequels if they want to go that route. And the fight scenes are amazing in it. Like there is a scene in the middle of the movie where he meets up with these brothers who are kind of maverick, rogue vampire hunters. In the movie, it sets up that most people are part of this organization called the Union, which has its own rules about when you hunt vampires and all that, kind of like Men in Black, if you want to think of it that way. and if you're a member of it, you get health benefits and other stuff like that, which is funny.
Oh my
God. If you're just a rogue vampire hunter, you just sell, you basically sell the vampire's fangs that you collect to these pawn shop brokers, which Peter Stormare, who we talked about in the previous season in Constantine, played Satan in that. He plays one of them, and it's a cool setup. It's just these skeezy guys. It's they're bringing in the fangs, and they're like, well, this one's a juvie, so it's only going to get you $300. If you brought us an elder, we might have been able to get you a couple of thousand or something. It's one of those things.
Oh my God.
And they actually use Snoop Dogg to a decent degree. They make him into a badass, and that, considering it's Snoop Dogg, that I don't know, something about that just makes me laugh.
He comes off so laid back on everything he does, and just he plays the same character. So I'm actually very curious to see him in this film.
Yeah, he's more of this badass cowboy in this.
Nice.
I mean, he's got cool Stetson hat, and he's a trick shot. I mean, it's a cool movie. They play it more for the badass scenes, the action scenes, than they do necessarily for any horror. There's no horror in the movie, But,
yeah. Look at it. Snoop Doggy Dogg has some range, y'all.
And one of the brothers that they made that in that halfway point in the movie where they have all those kick-ass scenes of them fighting, I want to say it's 30 or 40 vamps. It's one after the other, and they're doing all this, crazy flipping back and forth. All these they're one brother cocks his gun and slings the bullet to the other one, who does this maneuver where he catches it midair and loads it. And but one of the brothers in it is off of I want to say it's Shameless. If you've ever watched that, the guy who played the next door neighbor to the family, he was married or dating the black lady or whatever, and it was the two of them that lived next door to the family in Shameless. But haven't seen him in a hot minute, and it was kind of interesting to see him in he's actually very appropriate for the part. He looks like a big action hero in this, so it was kind of cool.
Well, holy shit.
So it's a good recommendation for you. If you got Netflix, watch Day Shift.
Speaking of that, the Hubs just stepped in. He's gonna throw his cans on real quick. Have you seen God damn it, what movie was it again? Not Shameless.
Shameless is one of the characters in it, but Day Shift. It just came on Netflix.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet. I've seen it pop up, but I haven't. I wanted to watch it, like Jamie Foxx.
All right, apparently we need to check it out.
It's really fun.
Yeah, he's a vampire slayer, if I remember.
Yeah.
Him, Snoop Doggy Dogg, and Dave Franco.
I can live without Snoop.
I heard him actually said he was great. I got to edit that out now. Reverend actually said he was that he was actually pretty good in it.
Yeah, I mean, don't expect Oscar level acting by any means, but I mean, it's I was like, oh shit, it's Snoop Dogg. This is going to be horse shit, and he actually gave a little bit of a care to it. So
let's move on. Let's have a fucking show.
All right, well, start that music up.
I hear
people at the door.
Let's let them in.
Right up front, I'm going to throw out there spoiler alert for anybody who wants to watch these movies. They both have twists, and they will get ruined this episode. There's no way around it, and they're old movies at this point. So, if you're listening to this, it's kind of on you to go watch them before you listen to the rest of it. But
yeah, I'll never understand people that don't watch a movie and then they listen to a podcast and they're like, "Why did you ruin that?" And it's like, "Why didn't you watch it?"
That's like the other day I saw that Red Letter Media had to review it for Prey, and I've been wanting to watch it, and I'm just like, I like these guys, but I'm not going to watch this until I see them because they're going to have spoilers. I mean, it just goes along with it.
Yeah, that movie is actually pretty good.
That's what I've heard. I have yet to see it, but I'm getting ready to.
Yeah, the reviews that Rain Man did and the review I heard my husband give of it on his most recent Blue Collar BS, they were identical.
Yeah, you actually had a character who it showed, like, instead of showing the woman amazing with nothing, this gave you the all the hard work that you can see that she put in to become a good hunter. Like, the thing I criticize most about all the mainstream stuff, they nailed it.
I've heard it's and also I've heard it's not that preachy about, like, men bad, woman, hear me roar type thing that a lot of these new movies do. That it has a little bit of that, but it's mostly like the guys are on par with her. Like, she's not like a Mary Sue, if you want to use that term.
Yeah.
She is in some instances, but it comes off believable to a degree. You're sold to sell on the cut on the individual because it did a good job with the story arc.
Okay, yeah, I got you. And I've heard that. Well, the one thing I've heard from a critical review of it, because listening to Nerdrotic and Geeks and Gamers, they were down on it, but they said that it was because she's got a lot of plot armor toward the end of the movie. Like, she ends up, like, there's a lot of things that she kind of shrugs off or that don't happen to her. That that it's kind of like, how did this not happen? And it's kind of like, she's the protagonist. That doesn't happen to her, that kind of thing.
Well, I heard that
a lot of it's a lucky scenario on her part.
Lucky. I also heard that she wasn't viewed as a threat as much as, like, her brother was.
Oh yeah, they cover that quite a bit.
Yeah, and so she wasn't taken seriously, which is, from what I heard, Llareyna loves a fucking spoiler. I don't give a fuck. If I want to hear the podcast, I will listen to it before I watch the show. I'm terrible. So I did listen to a few reviews of Prey, and it just sounds like, it doesn't sound like she had a lot of failures before she became the quotation mark hunter that she becomes. So,
well, even the one thing
Go ahead.
I was going to say, the one thing that I heard that was good is that a lot of people are giving shit. It's like, well, Arnie and the rest of them had to outsmart their predator, and this one seems dumb. But then I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, are all predators the same? I mean, this could just be a dumbass that came to Earth. He's more aggro than the other one was.
Well, yeah, isn't this the early stages? Like, isn't this way before? Isn't this like a prequel?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
This is like, 150 plus years or more than what the original Predator movie was. And it's like, this could be, I mean, the Predator himself could be like, just like a brute. Like, he doesn't, like, I've heard he's more about his, like, brute strength than the one in the the Arnold movies. So.
Yeah, not using his smarts and things like that, not using his fucking cover or whatever he has.
Yeah.
So
no, he uses that. It's a good movie. You got to watch it, because she learns from all the failures of all the other hunters, is what she ends up learning. So
which makes sense plot wise. I mean,
correct.
You see somebody, if you see somebody fail a certain way, you learn from that, or you're an idiot.
Yeah. Well, her character had to be more observant because she wasn't as good of a hunter. So she'd spend more time trying to observe things and was picking up the stuff that no one was paying attention to.
I hear that too, coming from, this is the time where men were the hunters and women were gatherers. She had way more to fucking prove too. Like, they weren't just gonna fucking carry for her. The
problem with the story does fall short is the fact that back in those days they would have just beat her. In reality.
Yeah, which tribe was this?
It was an Indian tribe, but
yes, it was, but it was a specific one. I think it was Comanche.
They're brutal.
Especially them.
They would have just beat her to death when she stepped out of line.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like they treat a lot of the native tribes as, like this uniform thing, and that, and which is whole horse shit, because the Shawnees and the Comanches are too drastically, that's just two, of the different tribes, but they were drastically different how they approached a lot of their stuff. So, I mean, it's kind of, it's really racist for the people to say, oh, well, they all felt this. It's like, no,
they didn't.
Human race is uniform in how they,
Well,
kinda...
There's a really good book, The Empire of the Summer Moon. It's a hell good book. It follows the Comanches, like chronological events and the people they would steal and the stuff they would do, man. Like, you learn really quick that I don't care what you say, man. The Indians are savages, dude. They had traditions that are pretty cool, but for the most part, there was no structure where they were going to move forward from where they were.
Oh, there's a lot of history like that we can get into, but
this is Death Holler, and we talk about horror in these here parts.
Welcome back, everybody. This was originally going to be considered a special presentation of Death Holler, but we just kind of grew it up to a full-sized episode because we got to talking, and there's a bunch of stuff we added to it. I'm your host, the Reverend Dr. Death, and I see dead people. And joining me, as always, is one of those dead people I frequently see and hear, Llareyna.
It's me. Llareyna? It's me. I'm dead people.
How did things go with your ghost nanny? Did you have to fire her?
Yeah, she's a bitch, and I know she was eyeing my man, too. Helga is not welcome back on these here grounds. I thought that I could trust her. She had a mustache, and she still thought that she could pawn over my man's, so she had to go.
She was one of those freaky ghosts from the last episode, I see.
Yes.
Is there anything more annoying than meeting ghosts that don't realize they're unalived, as the TikTokers say? Well, today we take a look into this particular subject, as well as discuss the impact one M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong had on horror films. So turn up the volume on your tape recorder, wrap up a little tighter as the chill in the air means Llareyna is pissed, and listen in as we review the 2001 film The Others, and of course the huge 1999 hit The Sixth Sense. As always, if you're enjoying the podcast, we would appreciate if you could take the time to like, comment, and subscribe on whatever podcast platform you prefer. It helps us get more visibility, and it helps us grow. So thank you, everybody who is listening, and we hope you enjoy the show.
Yes.
I didn't do an Attack of the Bees this episode. Sorry, just we like I said, we didn't originally plan this to be a full episode, but Donnie G confided to me recently that he sees dead people as well as I do, and in his case, they're usually nude and down to fuck. So thrilled to discuss his paranormal experiences. He had time to share this with us.
Oh boy.
And now, it's time for another episode of I think I downloaded the wrong movie.
Hello, all of my beautiful perverts. It is I, Donnie G, coming to you once again, and today we are discussing on if the look but don't touch rule of the strip club applies even after the strippers are dead and haunting you, because that seems to be the issue with Francis, who is a lonely, nerdish man who encounters the ghosts of 4 seductive strippers in his small apartment in The Sexy Sixth Sense. Jesus Christ, was this bad. If you listen to my review on Amityville Vibrator, it wasn't quite that bad, but still, this was just barely porn. All of the talent in this film, they were all ghosts, and for some reason they were trying to bang Francis. But of course, with them being ghosts, he wasn't able to touch any of them. So it just turned into them rolling around on the ground, trying to act like that they were getting stuffed. Also, this is just a personal preference. I'm not a big fan of overbearing music playing during the action scenes, and it's not only that being the issue, but the music, it was off-tempo, it was off-beat, and it didn't match up with the intensity of the action. Now, the movie, it wasn't all bad. It did have one saving grace. It gave us a peek behind the velvet curtain by showing us exactly what happens when the ghosts of 4 hot strippers get in the same room together. Yeah, they start fucking. But in all honesty, Aside from that one scene, this is very softcore porn. Kind of like late night Skinamax level, which is why I'm just going to give it a 1.5 out of 5 eggplants. And the people over on IMDb, they happen to agree with me. Out of 534 votes, they still gave it an astonishing 3.1 out of 10. Long story short, if you happen to find this online somewhere, just go ahead and fast forward to the all-girl scene and then just carry on with your day. And lastly, if this is your first time with the show, you can follow us on Instagram. You can follow Death Holler at Death Holler Podcast, and you can follow myself at Big Bald MFER. If you would, just go ahead and give us a follow. That would help us out immensely. And until next time, fuckers, get fucked.
That was naughty language.
That was the lowest eggplant score he's given ever so far.
Yeah, that was surprising. As big of a hit as The Sixth Sense is, and they gave it a shitty porn parody.
Well,
terrible.
and when I saw the cover of that film, it was like, I see dead lesbians.
He should have like a rating system for softcore ones and hardcore ones.
I think he just has a rating for how soft or hard he is.
This one's getting pushed rope.
This one's full chub, full chub.
I have a feeling he's doing this on purpose now. When we tell him we're watching a movie, he's purposely downloading. I'm starting to get the idea. He's purposely downloading the wrong films.
You think this is this trend that's happened over like 3 or 4 episodes is not just by accident at this point?
I'm
Come
starting to
on.
think it's not a coincidence anymore.
Oh, my bad.
Oh,
Wrong
man.
one. Let me watch this other one.
Yeah, let me watch that one you talked about. Oh shit, there's nothing in it. 0 out of 5.
Yeah. 0 eggplants. Like, what? We're not rating on egg. What does eggplants have to do with ghosts?
Oh, the first movie we're going to discuss this evening is The Others. The 2001 film, directed, written, and music was all made by Alejandro Amenabar. I guess is how you say that last name. So that's pretty crazy that the guy even did the music. I mean,
Yeah.
which I don't. If you've seen the movie, I mean, the music's not bad, but it doesn't stand out. I just threw it in there because I was just like, he did the music too. That's kind of crazy.
You know what did stand out in this movie in relation, not so much to music, but sound, was sound. Everything was enhanced in this movie. Footsteps, turning of pages, grabbing things, moving, everything. Everything had a fucking sound to this movie.
And it might be in my DVD that I was watching off my Plex account or whatever, but it seemed like the volume of the people speaking, I had to turn way down, but anytime that there was like a sound of something happening, it was like blasting my speakers out.
Yeah.
I hate it when that happens in a movie. It's like you're always, it's like you're looking around, it's, like, oh, I woke up the neighbors on this one scene and I was just trying to, actually hear what they were saying, Made for a budget of $17 million US, it made a box office of $209.9 million.
God
that is a
damn.
huge return.
Yeah. Holy fuck, it did really well.
We keep running into this with the movies that we've done recently, the ones that do really well in horror. The amount of return on investment they give versus these fucking Marvel movies that are out now, like,
Yeah, dude.
it's ridiculous.
You know what's
It's
awesome is they're coming out with a new VHS. I think it's this month.
What?
Yeah.
Is
the
that
movie
99, I
series.
believe?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, the last one, 94, was hella good.
They're coming out with a new VHS.
It's an anthology
Okay.
series
Yeah.
based around the idea that they're playing these VHS tapes are basically snuff films.
Okay.
Well,
Think of it
they're
that
like
way.
coded things where they mess up your mind. They cause weird things.
Okay. Oh, yes. I remember that. Oh my God, we've discussed that before.
But
I
the
was
series
thinking the
is hella
actual.
Yeah, but they're
You were thinking like VHS is coming back that much? Actually, VHS is on the rise as far as like collecting. There's
really.
these, Gen Z like loves them, man. Like they're
So
if
it's
you
cassette
have
tapes.
like if you have VHS tapes, laying around, I would look them up on eBay. You could get a lot of money out of them right now.
That's
just
insane
saying.
because the tape and the heads wear out. I don't think they realize that.
They don't care. They like that old school. They like how like shitty the video quality is versus like what they've gotten out. It's a weird thing. Like I understand going back to vinyl, because it actually has a better sound in some ways than digital does, but VHS is a downgrade all across the board.
Yeah.
You know what? Everything about that generation's shitty. Okay, so just let them
Damn.
wallow in their shit. Maybe they like
we
the
just
retro
lost all
sound
our
of it.
listeners in Denmark.
I know.
Whatever, so there you go.
I know we're not on Chartable this week, so I'm like, guess we dropped off.
Yeah, I don't think Raina's watching the VHS series movies.
I've watched a few of them with you.
Yeah, they're hella good. I think for some reason I like the small horror stories now, like the ones you can get on YouTube from Alter and a couple of the other ones that put those small independent horror movies up. They're like 15 minutes long. They're awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, him and the kiddos watch those. They're pretty horrifying because it's so short and you don't get any kind of closure.
No, a lot of them are no closure.
Yeah.
The good thing is, like, I watched like Scare Package, and and the thing about anthologies is there's usually one you really like, one that you hate, and then the rest are meh. You're just kind of like, whatever. I don't care if And Scare Package, the thing about that is it's got like 5 or 6 stories, 5 stories with like an interstitial to connect them. None of them are great. There's one that's like pretty decent, but it's like they're over so quick. That's the reason short horror is good. It's like they're over so quick. You're like, I didn't spend all day watching that, so it's fine,
Are any of these on Shudder?
Scare Packages. That's Joe Bob actually had that on his show because I think he's in the last segment of that, which that segment was actually not bad, if I remember right.
Yeah.
Shudder, we are looking for sponsorship. If you would like to sponsor a little-known horror podcast that is pretty popular in Denmark.
And they are coming out with Scare Package 2. So,
yes.
I mean, if you want us to do a review of that, we gladly will. We would like some sponsorship, though, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night, everybody. That's the show.
Principal players for The Others, Nicole Kidman plays Grace, the matron of the household, hyper-protective mother, and, oh my God, Omega-level Karen.
Yes.
Never seen a performance of a Karen quite like this in all the times I've been watching movies. Now, there is a horror movie called Karen, by the way.
I've heard about it.
Karen, I believe.
Yes.
And that might be more. I've not seen it yet, but it's going to be hard to top Nicole Kidman in this. Like, she's basically freaks out at everybody and blames everybody but herself. And we realize later she's the one that fucking killed her own kids to begin with. So who you blaming now, Karen?
The horrors of everything around her. Duh.
Life's so hard.
Life's so hard. I've got to kill my kids and myself. And then I'm going to blame these strange people that just came to my door for everything that's happening to me. She was obviously, she's been a ton of shit. Eyes Wide Shut with, then husband Tom Cruise, Days of Thunder. That's probably where they met.
Yes.
Moulin Rouge was kind of her on the, Eyes Wide Shut began the divorce. Moulin Rouge kind of extended it. This is in a trivia. They got divorced like literally 2 days before this movie premiered. So like he produced this movie with her. It'd be kind of weird. They were that far on the outs whenever they were making this together. But
wait,
whatever.
Eyes Wide Shut?
No, this movie, The Others, was the very last thing they ever did together. He produced this, and they literally got their divorce finalized 2 days before this movie premiered.
Wow. And they're not on friendly terms. They don't talk at all. Maybe for the kids, but
it would have been really bad to be on the production of this movie if they were that hardcore, because he's producing it, she's acting. Maybe that's the reason she's such a Omega level Karen in this movie. I don't know, but she was in Batman Forever, which we can forget about, in my opinion, as ever having existed.
She had one sexy scene in that film. Covered in those silk sheets with the silhouette of her body engulfed in them.
That is a horrible movie.
I never said it was a good movie. Bad. I said the scene.
Killing of a Sacred Deer, which I've heard is pretty good, but weird. I've not watched it yet.
That sounds familiar. What's that about?
It's supposed to be a really strange movie about this guy who goes hunting with his son, but then there's a lot of weird stuff that happens. It goes totally off the rail. Like the guy who made that is, it has nothing to do with the actual plot that it starts out with. It's more like it goes in a lot of metaphysical type things. I think is what I've read about it.
I think I've seen that. It sounds super familiar.
Did we lose him?
She was recently in The Northman with
That's a hell of a good movie.
from Robert Eggers.
I haven't seen it. Did you get
is,
it?
and-
Yeah.
I want to see it.
You sleep like a vampire, so you don't get to catch anything.
Speaking of that, the vampire in Day Shift is a Latina, so there you go. Sabrina.
Coincidence? I think not.
I'm supposed to be a spirit, not a vampire.
You feel like a
Bewitched, she was
succubus
in
sometimes.
that with Will Ferrell, I believe, was in that one. The remake movie they did of the TV series.
Oh,
And
yes.
she was, and then we mentioned on the last episode one of the actresses in the last movie that we covered. I believe in The Entity was in the original Stepford Wives. Well, Nicole Kidman was in the remake in 2004. She was in that version of the Stepford Wives. I don't believe I've seen either one of them. Been meaning to read the story. I've heard it's really good.
It's a very good premise. I don't know that I don't know about the first one. The second film, I liked it, but I wouldn't say that it's a good movie or that it was executed very well.
What, the Stepford Wives?
Stepford Wives.
The second one feels more comical than anything.
Yeah. And it's not intended to, so there's that.
And I can't remember the name of it. It's something Darling is part of the name, but there's a new movie coming out literally this year that looks like it's a take on the Stepford Wives. Like this, they're in this.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
50s
yeah.
throwback. Yeah.
That looks good.
Yeah, it does look good, and I'm hoping that it turns out to be a pretty good movie. We have Christopher Eccleston playing Charles, World War II vet, lost father and husband, and wandering spirit. He's only in the movie for like, I want to say 20 minutes tops, if he's even that long. I think it's maybe 15.
Yeah, it's not that long. Well, from what I saw.
So he's dead too?
Surprise!
Oh. Man.
Yeah, that's why he's
My
in
bad.
the fog, is because well, we said at the beginning of the spoilers, that's part of it. But like when she goes into the fog, that like the Mrs. Mills told her not to, because she's Karen and she doesn't listen to anybody. While she's in the fog, that's kind of like the land of the lost, according to spirits, almost like what in Beetlejuice would have been where the sandworms were at, because she's not supposed to leave the property. That's where she died, so that's where she's going to be haunting at. And in the fog, she finds her husband, and he's just wondering because, like, when he died more, his spirit is like lost in the mist, basically. Like it's not anywhere, it's not tied to the battlefield or anything like that.
See, and it doesn't really hit on how he died. Imagine he died in war then.
Yeah, I mean, it specifies. I mean, he even has to go. It doesn't so much say this in the movie, but it's pretty much just inferred that he has to leave because he has to go back to haunt the place where he died.
Yeah, that's kind of what they hint at, because he said, I've got to go back to the war. It's like
Yeah.
he's being drawn back to the battlefield.
But the war's over at this point.
Yeah. And I don't know. And maybe it's been just a little bit after that, because the way that the film takes place, it's like she says that, and of course the ghost, I mean, time's relative, but like she says that her staff left them a week earlier, and that's before Mrs. Mills and the other, and Mr. Tuttle, shows up. And so it gives you the idea that like they've been dead for a week, and she's, and that's kind of how long it's been since. But like, we could have passed a generation by now, and that's and she not even realized it. Of course, Christopher Eccleston, probably best known to a lot of people nowadays for being the Ninth Doctor in Doctor Who. He actually, everybody gives him credit. I mean, him and Russell T Davies brought the series back from death, so there's that. I mean, whether you like it or not, they did bring it back. He was only in it for one season, though. He was in Thor: Dark World, which is, I don't know, maybe it's still the worst Thor. I don't know. I've heard pretty bad things about Love and Thunder, so it might be still in contention that it's the worst Thor movie, but, there's that. Did you all see that Thor movie at all?
No, I wanted to, and Raina's like, no.
I had a preset determination of what I think that film's going to be, and so far from what I've heard, I have not been wrong.
I'd like to find out myself.
Well, that's good. You can do that, but I
want to go do a look and see.
He was in G.I. Joe: Rise of Cobra. Legend, not the one that we covered, not the the one about Satan, the darkness, but the 2005 Tom Hardy one that everybody has on TikTok is like one of their memes.
Oh my God.
What is it? Hold on. What is it?
Legend, the one that's where Tom Hardy plays like the two twins or whatever.
Yeah.
And one of them wears the glasses, and then the thing that was playing TikTok is the one dancing with a cigar, and he's like looking at the other one like, what, and
Oh,
the other one
yeah.
just like sitting on the couch like, what the fuck are you doing?
Which we recorded an episode of Legend, just so you know, babe, and I totally lost the episode. Like, just lost it. It's sitting on my computer, but it won't open, and we don't think that episode will ever come back.
We had a lot of good information in that one too.
Huh?
We had a lot of good information in that one
Oh
too.
my God. It was such a long episode.
And he was in 28 Days Later, which is a very good zombie movie.
Oh, yeah.
If you want to, or infected. Some people have issues calling them zombies in that because they're not technically dead, but whatever.
Well, can they come back to life?
Well, zombie doesn't mean you have to
well-
be dead. If you follow the original Caribbean idea of a zombie, it's like a voodoo
Yeah,
curse
they're-
where you're not who you are.
Yeah, they're mostly brain dead in the original like voodoo lore. Like they're
Yeah.
because of oxygen deprivation or the effects of the toxin, whatever. They have no mind of their own.
Yeah.
We have Fionnuala, or I don't know how you say
Bless
that
you.
name. Fiona, we'll just say that. I don't know. Flanagan plays Mrs. Mills. She's the nanny, former head of house staff, dead person. She's actually one of the ones that admits she's dead in this movie because they've been dead for a long time. She was in Waking Ned Devine, Four Brothers, American Gods in one episode. So that's been fairly recent that she's been acting. A Christmas Carol, the one with Jim Carrey, I believe you discussed or brought up during our Christmas episode this season.
Mm-hmm.
And Poltergeist The Legacy, which was a TV show based on Poltergeist. But I don't think it had anything to do with the show. It was more like they had cursed items or something that they talked about every episode. But she was the narrator on that. And she was in a ton of Murder, She Wrote. And it was funny because one of the episodes listed was Nan's Ghost that she was in.
Oh, my God.
Considering the fact that she played a ghost in this,
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of funny.
Well, what was
And
that?
she was...
Hold on. What was that TV show from like the 80s, early 90s where they had artifacts they were trying to collect?
There were several of them. Friday the 13th did something like that too.
Yes.
I don't know if yeah.
Was that the one that was a TV show and they had like a pawn shop and they would try to
that was what you were
recover?
thinking of, yeah.
Yeah, that was a hell of a good show.
They might have that on Tubi. I've not. I know that they've got the Nightmare on Elm Street series on there.
I did not know they had a Friday the 13th show.
Well, it's not based on Jason at all. It's like
It's not.
It's right up your alley though. The fact that it's a pawn shop and they specialize in getting these cursed trinkets off the market,
Mm-hmm.
and they got to go and hunt them down. It's an actually hella good show.
Is the pawn shop called Needful Things?
No, but might as well be.
Yeah, might as well be. She was also in the Ewok Adventure. If anybody's
Oh my
still
God,
those movies,
dude. When I was a kid, I thought those were so good, and I watched them
I was
as an
getting
adult.
ready to say I loved them as kids, and they're so bad.
Yes,
When you rewatch them,
they're bad.
we have Eric Sykes playing Mr. Tuttle, the gardener, unappreciated help, and another dead person. Most of the people in this movie are dead, folks. There's very few live people in this movie, just so you know. He was actually in Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. That's been his most recent thing he was in, which is surprising. I guess just because he looked so old in this, I didn't,
Yeah.
like, the difference in years, but he was in Harry Potter. And he was in a tons of British TV. I've never heard of any of this stuff, but it was all based on his name. Like he had like 4 or 5 different shows that had some version of Mr. Sykes or, Sykes, whatever. And and according to trivia, he must have been a big deal because like Nicole Kidman and Tom Cruise fought to get him in the movie for that part that he played. Like they
Wow.
loved his stuff that much. We have Elaine Cassidy playing Lydia, the mute, unappreciated house staff and dead person suffering from shock. And I'll get into that a little bit later in the discussion. She was in a TV show called The Ghost Squad, which is appropriate. A Discovery of Witches, which I think is fairly recent. and she was in that abomination called the Dark Tower movie that had, Matthew McConaughey and Idris Elba in it. And, if you've ever read the books, that movie is just more than a slap in the face. They raped you if you watch that. I'm sorry that they did. We have Alakina Mann playing Anne, the daughter. I am. And then Light Allergy having Ghost Child. James Bentley playing Nicholas, the son in Light Allergy having Ghost Child. And rounding out the cast, we have Renee Asherson playing the old lady, which is the blind psychic, and she is not your daughter, just so you know.
Oh,
and
my
if
God.
anybody knows what I'm trying to reference there was a Scary Movie parody. I think it was 3 when they stopped being made by the Wayans and stopped being as good, but then they did a parody of this movie, and I think it was Michael Jackson.
Oh,
was
my
underneath
God.
the sheets, and he was like, "I'm not your daughter," and he was like, "Hee hee," and did all that stuff. So
That's
it's a pretty
ignorant.
funny scene. That's ignorant. So, synopsis. After finding her waitstaff as abandoned ship, the matriarch and presumed widow of a wealthy family welcomes 3 new caretakers to her large mansion, insistent upon a very strict set of rules requiring the constant locking and unlocking of doors
Yeah.
and absolute absence of light in order to protect her children. The matriarch finds her worldview on life and death threatened by unseen forces. Pianos play by themselves, an old blind woman crosses the threshold between worlds, and peak Karen status is attained. Ha ha! But knowing the what I was getting at with that one, the mute being like shocked or whatever, like they reveal, like Mrs. Mills reveals later on, that when she discovered that when I think it was Lydia first discovered that they were dead, like she basically became mute because like it was such a shock to her system, and she's never spoke since.
Yeah, it was the last thing she ever said is, "Oh my God, we're ghost," and
Yeah,
we're done.
it's like
Cutscene.
So what do y'all think about like just the visuals of the movie?
I mean, they're pretty basic. I mean, they were, but I don't know.
I'd like the scenes of the old style era feel. Like
Yeah.
for some reason, like even the movie like The Witch, something about the time era where communication is lacking and you have to you can't communicate with people that easily, and not only that, but something about that kind of structure of a story, and I like them way better like that for that reason. That older feel, because it's more of a sense of the unknown for the most of it. I think it lends well to those movies especially if they're executed good. I thought this one was.
I'll tell you why I think that it works is because it's pretty basic, yes, but they heightened everything with sound, like I told you. I mean, going through photo albums and everything, yeah, that's important to be able to see, like she had the Book of the Dead and everything. Great. That's supposed to be creepy, but really everything she was doing, there was just so much sound around it. It would have been boring without at least that.
I agree with you. That kind of works the sound aspect into it. The one thing that I like about this movie is the constant fog outside. It forms the barrier of where their haunt basically exists. Like you don't, like they played off in the movie, like if you're watching it the first time, it's like, oh, well, there's been just this horrible, like weather lately. And it's set in England, so you can kind of believe it's just, overcast, awful looking outside all the time. But when she actually goes into that, ever-present mist and kind of gets in the no man's land out there, it's like, it's a cool visual representation of the barriers of where, her haunt, actually can extend to.
Oh, yeah. It gets super thick, super fast. Also, did you notice that at the boundaries of her home are the iron gates?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Did she make it through? I don't know that she made it through those gates to get into the fog. Did she ever make it past those gates?
I think there's like she crossed under like an arch or something, which we've already discussed that. Like there's that whole thing, about arches, but she actually did cross under the arch and go out into the fog. I don't know. Maybe it was her unbelieving nature that allowed her to get through there. Unbelieving in the sense that she's dead, because that's one of the themes of the movie is like she's super Catholic and she doesn't believe in an afterlife. That doesn't mean heaven or hell. Like there's no in between.
Oh my God.
So that's the reason she's, she doesn't accept that she's trapped basically on the earthly plane.
Yeah, for lack of a better term, she is Catholic as fuck in this movie.
And getting back to what Noah said, that I really appreciated, the fact they said it in this time period also allowed you to have that mind fuckery, at least the first time you watch it, because where it was a remote house, like mansion out in the middle of nowhere in that time period, it allowed them to isolate them a lot more than if you said it in modern times. There's no way with like modern conveniences that you could create this story the same way.
Well,
Yeah.
I think that's one of the reasons you get a lot of horror movies that fell because of that. I think that's one of the reasons the VHS series does really good, especially going back and like the 94 and the newer one. You're stuck in an era where, like, that's the whole reason Stranger Things is really good. There's a severed communication string. So when problems happen, you can't just phone home for help. It makes the movies work really good.
Yeah, they like to say it in modern times, like if they do have like a cell phone thing, it's always, oh well, they lost signal, which is believable in my neck of the woods. But I mean, if you're talking about modern cities, but if you're talking about modern cities, I'm just I know right out of the movie when I see that. I'm just like, really? You lost signal in the middle of Detroit. Okay, that's fine.
To be
I could
fair,
believe that in Detroit, actually.
To be fair, Stranger Things has their one thing where all these kids have like military grade fucking radios to contact each other. That probably cost a lot of fucking money back then.
No, I bet you they didn't. If they bought them at a secondhand military store.
Maybe if they did have a military surplus.
True. Yeah, they did. And they worked that into the last season, so that kind of explains that a little bit.
I mean, I guess there is also a lot of fucking weapons and shit they bought at that military grade store, which back in the day probably wasn't as big of a deal, but...
No, it wasn't. They were probably like, yeah, you want doubles of this?
Hey, you might want to try this. It's really good.
But I agree with you for the most part. Like, it's a very standard, like, type setup for that. I mean, there's only like one or two scenes in it. We talked about the Entity where like anytime that something was unreal, the director made it a point of like showing like weird angles for the character to kind of set the, kind of give the audience like the mindset that her world is off kilter. So, that's why the frame is off kilter. That happens in this a couple of times, but it's very minute. Like I barely noticed it. Like it doesn't stand out very much.
Yeah.
And it's just like pretty much, it's almost like a play that was filmed. And it's like one of those, it's like very, like there's nothing stand out. I mean, there's nothing bad, but there's nothing like stand out about the visuals. It's pretty, by the numbers to get the story across. Music wise, like I said earlier, I mean, the music's fine. It builds up when it needs to. I mean, it's not like got the problem that we talked about with some of the Japanese horror where it's like kind of out of sync with what they're trying to convey. It's just that I felt it was pretty generic sounding. There was anything that stood out about it to me other than the fact that, the director did it, which is amazing that, he has that talent, but it wasn't like, John Williams or anything like that level of composure or anything.
No, not at all, but it worked. It just wasn't outstanding by any means. But at least the tone was right, though. At least he didn't have any comical, funny music. The music was very somber. It was it had a sense of spookiness to it without overdoing it. And the music really didn't make the scenes as much as the actors' expressions. And again, the sounds, whether they were breathing in a strange way or the tone of the voice, if it was like a scared whisper, etc. It was mostly sound and some basic visuals that kind of made this. Also, did you notice a little blue light in this at all, or am I crazy? I thought I saw just a little bit of that, not in terms of The Ring or The Grudge.
I don't know if I saw. I felt like this one was more like desaturated almost. Like I felt like they didn't go the sepia route that we talked about with the Devil's Backbone, but I felt like it almost had that, like when she was looking through the black and white death book, basically it almost had that color. It almost took on like the fog gray about everything, like
very pale.
Yeah
It definitely made the kids look more ghostlier.
Oh, there's a reason those kids look ghostly. I'll get in that in the trivia. That could be considered child abuse, what they did to those children to get them to look that way, but
Awesome.
It wasn't makeup, that added to it maybe, but it wasn't all makeup. But anyways, so acting in the movie, like you got kid actors, so that's either hit or miss. I felt like the boy wasn't that great. I mean, he was okay. The girl was obviously better, and that's the reason she features in the movie more prominently. She's also older, so there's that.
Yeah.
Nicole Kidman sold Omega Level Karen. I mean, like she sold that part of it, for sure. And she conveyed the anxiety that like her character basically lived in constantly. I kind of feel like the other characters, I mean, Mrs. Mills was the only one that really had much of an interaction with anybody, and I feel like she did a pretty good job. I mean, the rest of them were just kind of there. I mean, it was a necessity of the plot, but like but those were the main ones that stood out to me.
Well, from what I saw in this film is that what was conveyed to me is that Nicole Kidman was under some fucking stress. Grace was her character's name.
Yes.
She was under some fucking stress, and in those days it was like it was very unknown what was going to happen to her if her husband didn't return. Now granted, she comes from a wealthy family, or I don't know if he came from the wealthy family. They're living in this mansion, and she's got to do the everyday day-to-day life stuff that there's no other than she's got a nanny there kind of doing the basics around the house and everything. She's still got to carry on. She's got to bear the weight of everything, and like I don't know, I think she conveys that very well in her acting.
She also conveys the loss pretty well of her husband. I mean, like when he comes back, I mean, there's that whole thing, but she can tell when he comes back that even in her face, she realizes he's not there for a long time. Like because he conveys, I mean, given Eccleston his due for the short amount of time he's in the movie, he conveys PTSD or shell shock, as they would call it back in those days, pretty well.
Yeah.
Because I mean, that's the gist. I mean, he's just like in his eyes. I mean, he's gone. Like, he's not there with them. It's he's just kind of still on the battlefield, and that plays into pretty well like what's actually going on with his character.
It really does. When I saw him, I was like, he's fucking dead. Like, holy shit. Like, and then it's like, he's probably also in disbelief. Like, how am I here? Or I made it, like, how long am I going to be able to stay?
Yeah, I think he gives that like off quite a bit. Like whenever he's just, talking to his kids, he's like, I shouldn't be here, but I'm glad that I got to at least see you one last time,
Yeah, and then he's like, okay, off to war. That's over. I wonder and granted, this is, of course, I wonder moment, but like, did he know he was dead? And if he didn't, if she knew she was dead, I wonder if there'd be some kind of weird thing where they could not only stay or see each other again. Because even at the end of the movie, the kids are like, are we ever going to see him again? And she's like, I don't know. It wasn't a no, we'll never see him again, because he's like, I gotta go,
You know how they say that like ghosts can be like in 2 or 3 different locations based upon like if they spent their life in one location but then they died in another, they can be seen at either location. He kind of gives me that vibe that that's what they were going with him.
Yeah.
Like, he died on the battleground, so that's where he primarily at. But every once in a while, he might make his way back to the house just because he does have ties to it.
Yeah. Now, since the kids are dead and they can now play in the sunlight, does that also mean that they could go on vacation and visit their dad on the war front? They can't die. They're like, hey, Dad, how's it going? I'm in the middle of war. Yeah, we're dead. It's cool, Dad.
Really?
I don't think that anybody there can leave because their life and death is all wrapped up in that house. Like that's the same thing with that, Mrs. Mills, Lydia, and Mr. Tuttle. Like that's the reason that they all came back. They keep coming back to that house, or we're always there. Is because they that's where their the best parts of their life were at, so they can't let it go.
Yeah. Ugh. And then the tuberculosis got them at the house. Tuberculosis apparently got everyone at that house.
Got everybody back in the day, period.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they were, what's so weird about that is they were technically quarantined. Because they're in the middle of the fucking forest in this house outside. It was outside of Germany. Is that where this house is located?
This was set on the Isle of Jersey, I believe, is where this was set at. I don't know exactly where that's located in Britain, but it's a little bit separate from like the Britain proper. I think that's kind of what they went with, kind of isolated even more.
Yeah, they made it seem like it was just outside the danger area, and that, they're barely able to escape, Nazi forces and things like that, allegedly.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
anything?
Was there anything about the story that stood out to you, like any specific scenes or whatever? I mean, everybody remembers the scene, "I'm your daughter," that's the one freak out moment that everybody had because, you're still thinking that the little girl's alive, and then you see this old crone, so you think she's been possessed, but it actually turns out in a cool way that it's reversed. The little girl possessed the old woman. And that's how the ghosts see it. They see the other person in place of them, but, I'm trying to think. Other than that scene, I like the scene where it shows the living people for just a split sec, that, just for a few minutes, and it shows the struggle they're dealing with because they really want to live there, but they're getting Karen just is pushing them away constantly. It's get out of my house, you don't belong here.
They're basically they're this, like a modern version of the Maitlands or an older version of the Maitlands from Beetlejuice.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah.
they're getting haunted, but the ghosts inhabiting the house are no, you need to get the fuck out. The scene, and I had mentioned to you, the one scene that kind of got me, and it'll kind of roll into another movie that, we're reviewing here shortly, but the scene where the kids are being forced to eat and they're it tastes funny. And I was for certain that the mom was poisoning the kids. And that's not at all what happened. It wouldn't surprise
me either, because that, Munchausen by proxy is exactly what the situation was in The Sixth Sense. And if you have it wouldn't surprise me if Nicole Kidman's character in this wasn't doing the same thing. I mean,
yeah, maybe slowly trying to kill them, and it didn't work out, so she smothered them to death.
Yeah,
literally.
Because obviously, if she went through the process of smothering them, she felt like there was no hope for any of them at that point. And if she'd been, and it said that her husband had been gone to the war and missing for months to years. So how long has she been suffering from this depression? And right before the kids died, they might have been poisoned. That might have been what that was.
Yeah, maybe they were suffering, and she was just I can't deal with this.
It doesn't explicitly come out and say that because it says that they were technically smothered to death with a pillow. But it's that might have been her final way of just saying we're done. I'm not dealing with this anymore.
Yeah.
But at least she didn't become a social worker in the next life, like in Beetlejuice. Those rules did not get applied to her. So there's
no,
that.
She would not be maybe a manager, but
yeah, she would be.
Do you remember anything of the film that stood out?
No, I wish I would have rewatched it. I didn't get a chance to rewatch it.
Oh, I thought you said you remembered it.
I do, but I don't remember the details. The details always get hazy.
The best scene in the movie, creep-wise, to me, is the scene where they realize finally Nicole Kidman admits that ghosts exist. She's had to break through that barrier on her Catholicism. She realizes that when she sees in the book, because this is at the point where Mrs. Mills says it's time. She looks at Mr. Tuttle and she said, if that's the way she wants to be, because they've been kicked out of the house.
Yeah.
She's if that's the way she wants to be, it's full on. She says, uncover the graves, because she wants them to know what's going on now.
Yeah.
And so she finds the book with them all dead in it, and then she starts to freak out. The kids are already outside. They have decided to go out in the middle of the night and play, and they happen upon the graves. The little boy is not he's not quite there. It's Anne that's reading the cemetery, or the actual gravestones, tombstones. And you see, and there's a scene of also Lydia, Mrs. Mills and Mr. Tuttle, and they're walking toward, the little boy. And it's just the way the scene is framed. It's at night, the fog. It's really creepy. It's because, at that point you still think the kids are at least alive. And and so you see what at this point are for sure spirits, and they're kind of slowly walking up like they're going to attack this boy. And then that's the scene that stands out to me as far as the creepiest scene in the movie, because that's right before the reveal.
Yeah, and they come at him kind of in a slow, sinister way, but at the same time, now that in perspective, you kind of know, they're just there to kind of inform them. Hey,
yeah.
By the way, y'all dead.
Yeah, they're just slowly walking up on the kids, let them know it's like it's okay now. You can be in the sunlight, that because that's the reason that they've been kicked out of the house is because when Grace comes in, all the curtains are gone off all the windows.
Yeah.
And I guess that's because in the real world, the wife had become so upset with like constant like things moving and this and then her son like speaking to this, these ghost children that she just said, like F it, and she pulled down all the curtains because she was getting ready for them to move away from it.
Yeah.
And so like that causes Grace to freak out and like she thinks that Mrs. Mills and the rest of them are out to hurt her kids and that kind of spurs on them to say, okay, it's time for her to realize where she's at and what's going on.
Oh God, what was I gonna say? It was
she knew, she was just in denial about it.
She knew in the back of her mind, but like she didn't want to admit it because like, that also went against her Catholic faith about her killing herself, or the murder of two of her children. But,
how do I just don't understand how Catholics maybe back then didn't believe in ghosts. It's literally the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. Come on.
The Holy Ghost, not a ghost.
It's still a ghost.
The funny thing is there's actually, I think there's like a line in the Bible, if I remember right, where it's like in the Old Testament where it talks about in a cult in a manner, meaning that, if you see this sort of thing, there's something evil with you. But there was like a medium who spoke to spirits and, of the dead. And that's actually in the Old Testament. So I don't know why, modern day Christians are like, there's no, it's like your own book says there was, if you want to go that route.
Good Lord.
But anyways, are you all ready to go into the trivia section?
Yeah, let's get into some trivia.
So Nicole Kidman originally tried to persuade Alejandro Amenabar and the Weinstein brothers, which
oh,
to find another actress for the part. Coming off of Moulin Rouge, the actress was initially reluctant to do a film that explored such dark places. She actually quit during the rehearsals. Because her reason is that playing Grace gave her nightmares. She got so into the part that like it started to affect her emotionally, like in real life. And I guess her split with Tom was probably not helping that. But like she just really got to a dark place, like living in this character's shoes, basically.
I wonder if it was really the whole divorce thing, and she was using that as an excuse, because that's a really good excuse. Like, oh my God, it's like taking its toll on me. And I'm not saying that it didn't, but this is not.
I think Heath Ledger. Look where getting down in the dirt doing his character led him.
That was way darker than this, though. It's
a parent that murdered both the
kids. I mean,
yeah, but like she's not playing that majority of the film. She's just realizing at the end of the film.
Well, it's like Noah said though. The character knows she's in denial like through the whole thing, and so Nicole Kidman, if she's that good of an actress, she had to play with the aspect of knowing that her character knew that too, to a certain degree.
Yeah, okay, maybe.
Maybe.
But I agree with you. I think there's more than just this that played into it.
Yeah.
The disease that children have is an actual disease known as xeroderma pigmentosum, which is basically an extreme sensitivity to sunlight. It is very rare, with roughly 1,000 people in the world who have it. And basically what it amounts to is when they get out in the sun, I believe it's like extreme, like skin cancer and burning like instantly. Like,
oh my
that's
God.
How bad it is.
Is there
They're
any
vampires?
Yeah. I mean, other than covering up with certain types of clothing, because I know there's types of clothing you can wear now, is there anything else? Is there any like sunblock that you can use, or is just no hope?
Yeah, using like a very large umbrella if you go outside like a vampire would. I mean, that's literally it.
Basically, they're vampires.
And that, honestly, that condition might have spurred vampirism like the way that we know it. I mean, seriously, that could have been a thing that people knew about, like randomly happened. Bram Stoker worked it in, and there you go.
Okay, so wait a second. How far back was this discovered?
Well, people have had this for a long time. I mean, it's not like a new condition. It's just most people back in the older days died fairly young with it, because obviously you wouldn't go survive long if you had that kind of problem in the sun.
Yeah.
It probably survived better in the northern climates. Like there was more likely people who survived in the, older ages and were able to spread it, like that way. I mean, or, like procreate and, pass on their genes. But, like it's been out there for a while.
Okay.
In a pivotal scene, Grace finds a photograph album containing pictures of people she believed to be sleeping. Mrs. Mills informs her they are all deceased and that people photographed the deceased in the previous or the 19th century. It is mentioned that the photo album is a book of the dead, photos taken of those who passed on so they can live through the photograph. The discussion makes it seem as if there was something done by superstitious people, but that's not necessarily true. In reality, people did photograph their deceased loved ones during the late 19th century, but that's because during Victorian times, photos were very costly and people could not afford them. So that the only way that they was going to have a photograph of the person that died was to get it, obviously upon their deathbed. I mean, and that's why they did that.
Oh, okay.
It was like your last memento. It's like the one way to remember them before, it was not like today where you can just snap a photograph at any point in time and just remember them.
Yeah. Well, and what I was going to say about that earlier, I had lost my wording, but who was taking pictures of the maid, her husband, and her daughter? Like,
Yeah, who's wasting money on that?
yeah, that was because they did have a picture.
Yeah, don't take pictures of the help. What are you doing?
And maybe they did. Maybe they were good help, and I could totally see them wanting to do that. But who are they going to give that to? Because usually that went to the family. It's like, oh, I'm going to remember Helga. She really scrubbed my floorboards,
Listen, obviously, I agree with you, but if those three were that devoted to the household that they stayed, like they said in the movie, when everybody else left the household,
Mm-hmm.
and they were the last staff left there in the waning days of whatever the previous owner, or previous 2 or 3 back owners, time there was, then there was enough care between them and the owner of the house that maybe the
relationship wise,
them.
yeah.
There was also a time back in the day, and I tend to forget this, that housekeepers came with the house. Like when the owners left, though they stayed and belonged to the next group of people that moved in, which is that's
been in several movies that we've covered, like The House on Haunted Hill and all that stuff, or The Haunting, I guess, and like all that stuff. Like it's, like the help stays, after everybody else is gone, and kind of, that sort of thing.
I have not yet found a house like that. I am looking, where it comes with a housekeeper. Really? That would be amazing.
Yeah, you'll find that, and you'll find out they're actually dead whenever you go up in the attic and find the book. And
as long as they're scrubbing my floorboards, I don't give a shit.
Don't believe her.
This is weird. Pupils were often painted onto the closed eyes after developing, and occasionally a hint of paint was added to the cheeks to make the person appear more alive.
Yes.
Some were posed with favorite objects, children with favorite playthings, adults with books or newspapers, and of course, there's many websites devoted to this history and practice. There's actually my old Kentucky home here in Kentucky in Bardstown has like a Victorian Halloween thing that they do where they discuss a lot of Victorian death and and burial rituals that they did at the time. That's pretty interesting. That is worth going through the tour at least once for that.
Oh, really? It's a tour.
Yeah, it's like you go through the house and they have it set up like it would have been on the day of somebody's death, and of course they've got all the mirrors covered up and draped in veils because they believed if there was any kind of mirrors in the house that the spirits would get trapped inside, and they wouldn't be able to make their way to the afterlife, and it goes through all that stuff.
Sacramento used to have something like that years ago.
Old Auburn has it.
Oh, I
try to sign up for it every year. It's really hard to get into.
Yeah, Sacramento used to have something like that, but now, what a lot of the Victorian homes are at now in Sacramento, dude, the homeless overrun the area.
Oh, gee.
Yeah.
That's scarier than any ghost that might be still in places.
It's a combination of real and fake.
Is that a real body? Oh, my God, it is.
It's moving. It's a zombie.
To get the kids worked up, Alejandro would play scary music when they weren't expecting it. Well, that's better than shooting a pistol off I believe Freakin' did in The Exorcist.
The Exorcist.
So The movie opens with Nicole Kidman in voiceover reading a story. She begins with the words, "Now, children, are you sitting comfortably? Then I'll begin." The BBC radio program Listen with Mother, broadcast in the UK between 1950 and 1982, also began with, "Are you sitting comfortably? Then I'll begin." So they kind of took that from that.
Were Nicole Kidman and Tom Cruise into the BBC?
I guess, like, they really
It
must
sounds
love
like they
British
were.
stuff, or,
Yeah.
We
the
gotta
house,
remember
supposedly,
the BBC is like the biggest broadcasting thing.
Oh yes.
So-
There's a whole fucking song about it.
I know, but if it's the media empire, you want to get in good with them so you can get advertising and different stuff like
In
that.
fact, aren't all their
There's
channels just called BBC, like, and then a number? So BBC
1,
BBC 2,
yeah, there's-
BBC 3,
Yeah, well,
BBC 4.
Well, the government actually owns the media over there. No,
there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, yeah. You know,
Um,
I think the only thing that you have outside of that is Sky News. Is the only thing that's outside of the control of the government for media.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Skynet News?
You know, they're so popular, there's porn named after them, too. A style of porn, you know, BBC.
Oh my God.
The house, supposedly on the island of Jersey, is actually located in the north of Spain. And that's kind of where they filmed it at, but they kind of dressed it was close enough that they could dress it up.
That's a gorgeous ass house.
It really is, that whole area. I mean, it fit the part. I mean, I felt like it could have been found in that setting.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Executive produced by Tom Cruise, this marked the last collaboration between him and Nicole Kidman prior to their divorce. Their high-profile divorce was finalized the same week that The Others was released. And let's see. And then Alejandro wanted to play with the shadows within the movie, so sometimes scenes were actually just lit by candles in this, which is kind of cool. You
Yeah,
know, they
that's
don't really
badass.
do that a whole lot.
As long as they don't burn the whole set down and have to remove the doors, you know?
Those
Really?
are expensive doors from England. Get them off the house.
What movie was that? That was The Changeling?
The Changeling, yeah.
Yeah, we reviewed The Changeling, and the set, everything was built except the doors were real. And so when the set caught on fire, they had to remove the doors. They're very expensive, like old doors.
Oh yeah, handcrafted
Yeah.
out of trees that
They were
are thousands
gorgeous.
of years old, probably.
Yeah. So, like, one of the guys, was it a producer or whatever, or a set director? He was fucking fanning flames off while he was fucking removing these doors.
Yeah, well, there's no price on them, so if you had to own the price of that thing, yeah, it might excel the cost of the movie.
Yeah, I'm surprised they didn't get damaged at all. Like, no heat damage, no fucking smoke damage, nothing.
Or you could be like in The Hateful Eight, where they gave Kurt Russell like this antique. I can't remember the name of the company. It's not mandolin, but anyways, like this antique guitar, and then like he actually smashes it in the scene because they didn't take the time to swap it out with a prop, and he destroyed something that was worth like, you know, thousands upon thousands of dollars and can never be replaced.
It was replaced with some cold hard cash, I imagine.
He literally looked at him and said, "My bad." I mean, it was, what could you do at that point?
Yeah.
The ghostly image appearing over Grace's shoulders resolves itself to a somber face and a painting in the wall. The image is actually a detail, specifically a close-up of the Puritan man's face of the 1855 painting, the Wounded Cavalier by William Shakespeare Burton. And so that kind of ties in, you know, more of the history of the house. This was the first film to ever receive the Best Film Award at the Goyas, which is the Spanish National Film Awards, and with not a single word of Spanish spoken in it.
Wow.
Yes, I love it.
Alejandro originally wanted Emily Watson for the role of Grace. Jodie Foster and Catherine McCormick were also considered.
Yeah, I don't know about Jodie Foster.
Jodie Foster could not have pulled this movie off. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
I don't
She
think so
couldn't have.
either.
You know, I don't know that anyone could. Nicole Kidman is just so ghostly in nature in general. She's so fucking
Yeah.
pale, you know?
And I think the circumstances, like we said, of what was going on in her life at the time added to the part, whether she brought that in consciously or unconsciously. I mean, it's you would have been hard pressed to find somebody in that kind of state of mind that could have played the part the way she did.
Yeah, Emily Watson, though, she definitely has a Victorian age look to her, or naturally. So
You
that
saying
might have
she looks
worked.
beat?
Kind of. I mean,
She looks haggard.
as the film goes on in this, Nicole Kidman goes from clean and put together to looking as beat as Nicole Kidman is going to look. I mean, the woman rarely ages. She doesn't. She's got whatever. She's got the fucking disease. She doesn't ever go out in the sun.
That or adrenochrome, but we won't get into that right
That
now.
too. Yeah, maybe it's both. Why not both?
Alejandro cast Nicole Kidman in the lead role, having been a fan of hers since To Die For in 1995. And then Nicole pressed for the hiring of Eric Sykes, as I said, as Edmund Tuttle, as she and then husband Tom Cruise had twice been hugely impressed by his theater work. So, and one of his two things that they had saw was School for Wives and Kafka's Dick. So there you go.
Okie dokie. You think Alejandro had a crush on Nicole Kidman?
Yeah, Alejandro must have really liked Nicole Kidman, and that's why he wanted her in the movie.
Yeah. I think he was excited that they were getting divorced.
Oh, yeah. It's like you can work that in a little bit.
Yeah.
The name of the gardener caretaker, Mr. Tuttle, is the name of the gardener caretaker at George C. Scott's haunted house in The Changeling. It also features the automatic writing from that film as a plot point. So we already discussed this. This movie kind of stole from, or at least was inspired by The Changeling. Well, they actually took the name of The Help from that movie.
Oh, okay.
Alekina Mann and James Bentley were cast after an intensive search that encompassed 5,000 children.
Shit.
James Bentley was cast right away, which is surprising, but Alekina Mann took longer. The filmmakers wanted someone who'd be a strong opposite to Nicole Kidman. And she does, for the most part, she stands. I mean, like you can see that they'd be mother and daughter. Like they're pretty forceful personalities. As far as
yeah, I think that works pretty well. And well, I'm sure you'll get into the non-makeup effects, I guess, because she looks like Nicole Kidman.
This was Renee Asherson's, the old lady who was the psychic's final acting role before her death on October 30th, 2014, at the age of 99 years old.
Wow.
Oh, shit.
So she was in her late 90s when she did this part.
Didn't even get to go trick-or-treating that year. I bet you she was pissed.
Or actually, no, she would have been in her 80s. But, she was way up there in age. Alejandro based a lot of the script on his Catholic school education. He is now agnostic. So there you go.
What happened?
I don't know. It's something about, maybe something happened in, his Catholic school.
Perhaps.
Things, perhaps. The script was written in Spanish and then translated into English. It was Alejandro's first English language film, and he had to have a lot of translators to help him get the points across. But, I feel like it worked. I mean, since he couldn't speak a lick of English and none of the people that he was directing could speak Spanish.
Wow. That's impressive. And he, I hate to say it, he looks like someone who does not speak any English.
Damn.
I can say that. I'm Hispanic.
Wow, just calling them out there. He based the look of the movie on drawings from books in the 30s and 40s that he read as a child. The film earned over $200 million, making it one of the highest grossing horror movies of all time. This is the highest grossing Spanish film in the all-time worldwide box office history as of May 2006. Or at the time of filming, it was the highest, and now it's like 265th.
Wow.
I mean, it was the highest grossing Spanish film, not horror film, but Spanish film at the time that it was released. So that's something, that's pretty up there. I mean, the film opened in the U.S. at number 4 in the box office charts and stayed around that figure for its initial run. 7 weeks into the release, it actually climbed up to the number 2 spot. So this gained traction over time, which is, you take a look at Love and Thunder, and it's like that movie dropped like a rock, like after its first week being out. And it cost way more money. So I'm sure Disney's not too happy right now.
Oh, God.
Alejandro told Elaine Cassidy, Lydia, that it's in her character to always be one step behind Mrs. Mills. So she's always, if you see her in the movie, she's always following around Mrs. Mills. That's what she does. This movie is a weird cross section of production cultures. It stars an Australian woman playing an English woman.
Yeah.
It's written and directed by a Spaniard, backed by Americans, and set in Jersey but filmed in Spain. So there you It was released a few months prior to Vanilla Sky, which is the American remake of Alejandro's previous film, Open Your Eyes. And coincidentally, it stars Nicole Kidman's then estranged husband, Tom Cruise. So there's a lot of cross-pollination between, Alejandro and the Cruises at that time.
I actually like that movie, Vanilla Sky. I don't know. What was your opinion about that?
I only remember watching it once, and I wasn't in the right frame of mind to watch it because I remember I couldn't understand what I was watching at the time. I was just like, okay. And I think I would probably appreciate it more if I watched it now.
Okay.
Because I feel like it was a little out there. Like I was like, okay.
This might come as a shocker to you guys, but I have not seen it.
That shocks me right to the core, let me tell you. Although the main characters are shown sitting at a table with food and drink, only one of them is seen putting food or drink in her mouth in a single shot. This would be Anne, who sips from her bowl at the end of the breakfast table scene in the home release version only. So even in the scene where she says that the food taste is funny, you don't actually see her really eating the food.
Yeah.
Grace expresses the importance of locking one door before opening the next, but often it shows her unlocking doors, but only closing them carefully, not locking them. So
yeah,
Mega Karen doesn't follow her own rules, people. Like, come on.
What is up with the keys? Is that ever explained in this film?
It was her way of keeping the kids from roaming, because she was afraid that if they didn't lock the doors and keep them locked in their particular areas, that they would find their way to where sunlight was at, and then, burn alive, basically.
It was so weird.
It was weird, and it was, I don't know, it's just one of those weird things, that's not really explained a whole lot, but that just adds to the mystery of her character, I guess.
Yeah.
Anne's description, Anne, the little girl's description of what ghosts look like, i.e. people under white sheets with chains, might be a reference to Charles Dickens' novel, A Christmas Carol. And this could be reinforced by the fact that Anne said she had read the description in a book. So they kind of based some of that on that story. Just like last time, Bollywood has a remake called
Oh my God.
Come On High that was made in 2004. I don't understand how Bollywood has versions of these movies unless Bollywood does not have movies where they sing and dance the entire time, because I thought that's all Bollywood was.
No. That's the most popular of the films. But yes, they do actually have horror films. They have romance films.
Their horror stuff sucks so bad. Have you tried watching... So Netflix has a couple of their independent horror movies and horror TV shows. They are so... Okay. It's like something you would have seen, like a storyline arc you would have seen as something from the 60s from here.
Okay, so they're behind us, and that's their version of horror is kind of way behind the times versus ours.
Big time, dude. It's I tried to watch it. I was just like, well, I'll give the story the benefit of the doubt. No, the story's horrible too.
We were laughing because they have a Bollywood version of The Entity, and we were like, is that allowed in that country?
It's actually promoted in that country.
Yeah.
Though not an adaptation of Henry James' novel The Turn of the Screw, this film borrows from the famous ghost stories themes, and its title seems to be a reference to the novel as referencing the servant apparitions as the others, which we will be covering before too much longer, something that is based on The Turn of the Screw. There's actually been several movies and the TV show that was based on that. Mateo Gil, screenwriter of Alejandro's previous film, Open Your Eyes, cameos here as one of the dead men in the photographs in the album. So, and then Alejandro also appears. He's the one that's got the mustache on the right side in one of the pictures of the three men.
Yeah, that was weird. The three men. I'm like, there's just three random men. Take their picture together.
The basis for this movie is from an episode of British television series Armchair Theatre that came out in 1956. The episode is called The Others, that was filmed in 1970, and it was also remade as Voices in 1973. This version is more elaborate, but the story is nearly the same. So this is basically like a redux of a television production in a way, which is very interesting. They don't normally do that. when the wandering Charles arrives home escorted by Grace, he meets Mr. or Mrs. Mills, later revealed to be another person among the dead. When he approaches Grace in the fog, and as he enters the room to greet his children, Charles' footsteps produce a sound not unlike the clanking of chains, which Anne had previously mentioned was a telltale trait of ghosts. So they were hinting that he was dead even in that scene with just the sound.
Yeah, but no one
like
else's feet sound like that in their ghosts. But maybe, I don't know. I have nothing.
You got to remember, in Dickens' tale, it was only the people who were like weighed down by the guilt of what they did in life that had the chains. So maybe her husband was, suffering from that. Funny that she's not, considering what she did to her children. But we'll leave that alone.
Let's not talk about that. Let's talk about other shit.
When Mrs. Mills and Mr. Tuttle are covering up the 3 gravestones, a Celtic cross can be seen emerging from them. The Celtic cross is a version of the Christian cross that is particularly common in Ireland. And since Mrs. Mills speaks with an Irish accent, that's a subtle clue that the gravestone is actually hers. And later on, when Anne is looking at the gravestones, that is the one that's Mrs. Mills' tombstone, which is kind of a good point to link them together. So what I read about the kids, because I'm not seeing it here in my notes, is they actually had these kids locked up without sunlight for up to 30 days prior to filming to keep them, and only allowed them outside to play at night so that they would get the least amount of sun possible while they were filming this movie.
Damn.
And the parents were okay with that.
I guess. Now, they did add some extra white makeup to the kids' faces to kind of hint the movie's twist, but they kept them as pale as possible by not allowing them out in the sun while they were doing the production of the movie.
Wow.
It's like you can go out and play, but only at nighttime, kids.
Yeah. Here you go. Here's some coffee.
And in the scene where Grace is loading the shotgun for the first time, she can be seen pausing in a kind of a moment where she's kind of, remembering something. After she slams the breech shut, this is most likely due to her faint realization or deja vu, that she committed suicide by using the same gun. So that's a nice little tie-in.
Which she said she pointed it straight at her forehead, and I'm like, I guess that could work, but that's a long barrel. You got your arms. How'd you do that?
Are you saying that whoever killed Kurt Cobain went back in time and killed this poor lady after she murdered her children? Is that what you're trying to insinuate?
Yes. Unless she did it old-fashioned and did it with her toe,
Were her arms long enough? Or her, and then did she have tennis shoes on at the time? Let's discuss this right now.
Shut up.
So do you want to move on to the next movie?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. The Sixth Sense came out in 1999, directed and written by M. Night Shyamalan. Shyamalan, I guess. I looked up pronunciation of this.
I think it's Shyamalan, isn't it?
It's Shyamalan. There you go. Yeah. The music was by James Newton Howard. Made for a budget of $40 million US, made $672.8 million US.
God damn.
Killing it. This gave him the ability to make all those other shitty movies.
It also gave Disney the ability to make all their shitty movies. You got to remember they made this. So.
Oh, I didn't realize Disney made it.
Yeah, this is one of their under their. I believe it was under their Touchstone or their brand that they used to have. Principal players: Bruce Willis, who plays Malcolm Crowe, who was also one of our rankings, our previous rankings on our ghost scale. He was firmly at number 3. Plays child psychologist, unhappy husband, and spoiler, he's a dead guy. Of course, known for Die Hard and I think he's in all the sequels. Probably shouldn't have made them after 3, and some might have said after the first one, but leave that where it's at.
One of my favorite movies that he was in, and people shit on it all the time, is Hudson Hawk.
Yeah, I got that listed here. I actually enjoy Hudson Hawk. It's a good bad movie.
I think Bruce Willis was awesome in the movie.
You can tell. Well, listen, if you watch Bruce Willis's movies, you can clearly tell that some of them he did just for the paycheck. Like, he is checked out of them. He doesn't care. God bless him. Like, nowadays, if you see a bunch of his direct-to-video ones he did for Redbox, he was actually doing those because he's got like this neurological disease where he's not going to be able to speak for much longer, and he's also got like, you know, he can't remember lines anymore, so that he was doing all that real quick to like have money for it, you know, to leave. Like, I mean, he's probably got money, but like to have more money for his kids, you know, to leave to them. And so that's bad. But like there was clearly way even before that, like some of the later diehards and all that, where you could tell he was just checked out and getting a paycheck for them. But in Hudson Hawk, rounding it, circling it back, he was having fun the entire time he was in that movie.
Yeah,
he loved that movie.
I don't care what people say. Like the critics smashed it and stuff like that is stupid. I thought it was a pretty good movie.
I enjoy it. I watch it whenever I catch it on. Like it's that's the reason I listed it in the notes here, because I don't feel like a lot of people give it credit because it's so panned. But
he was a badass cat burglar in that movie. I think he was people like crapped on it, but I thought he did a good job with the movie.
He's in Armageddon. I mean, that's one of the big ones from, you know, the late 90s, I believe, you know, that came out.
I hate that movie. I hate that movie with a passion.
You don't want to miss a thing? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
Dude. I just, that movie was so bad.
Yeah, it's not one that I go back and watch. He was in Pulp Fiction. He wasn't in. He was only in it for a little bit, but he was in that movie.
Pulp Fiction actually brought him back to the limelight, man. Like he was kind of falling out. Him and John Travolta were kind of like flying low on the radar. Then they put that movie out, and he got a ton of movies from that.
Yeah, well, Sin City was one of them for sure that he got after that. I mean, that, you know, that's one of the ones he did afterward, because Robert Rodriguez, you know, and then Quentin Tarantino, they're good buddies. So, I mean, they kind of, I mean, you know, since he was in Pulp Fiction, that's kind of where, you know, how he got into Sin City. Looper is a good movie that a lot of people don't give credit for.
That's a hell of a good movie too.
I would say that was it Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and I believe is his name. I believe he does like the bulk of the acting in the movie, but still Bruce Willis.
They did a good job with the makeup to make him look like younger Bruce Willis. They did a good job of selling that character.
Of course, he started out in Moonlighting, which was an old 80s, you know, television show. Unbreakable is a really good movie from M. Night that he was also in after this. So that, I mean, and of course, you know, that Unbreakable, you know, spin in the Split and then Glass. So, I mean, he's in all of those. He's in the best part of Grindhouse, which is the Planet Terror section that Robert Rodriguez done. I don't know. Death Proof's okay, but it's long and dull to me.
What?
So.
I hate you.
Dude, I like Kurt Russell. He did a badass job of selling that character. I love
Kurt Russell, but the thing is the first half of Death Proof is amazing, and then they switch the script and they focus on those girls in the second half of it, and he's like, you know, and then like turn everything on him, and the scenes with him are good because he's such a pansy in that section of it, but like, I don't know. Yeah, he's like crying and stuff. I don't hate Death Proof. It's just one of those things where I watch it and I'm like, this is the first half of this is great. And then you kind of spin wheels for a little bit before you get back into it.
That scene when Rose McGowan gets in his car and he's explaining the car. He's like, yeah, this car is death proof. But the thing about it, you got to be on this side of it to enjoy it.
Oh, yeah.
Like that.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden the reality of it sets in immediately like, oh, shit.
I just love Planet Terror to me though is just like the classic, like, I mean,
drive-in
cheesy,
type of big time.
The bad acting, I mean, and the fact that Bruce Willis doesn't care that he's in this movie adds to it.
She has a machine gun leg. It's like the most over the top stuff. It's a total Grindhouse throwback 80s type of movie.
He was also in Death Becomes Her. Have you ever seen that?
Oh my God, I love that movie.
Awesome movie too.
That's a really good movie that doesn't get a lot of credit either.
That's got to be a special presentation or something.
During zombie season, you're damn sure that's going to be a special presentation. And of course, 12 Monkeys. I mean, that is outside of the norm for him all the way around. Like, I mean, you know, I know Terry Gilliam directed, but I mean, and he's always got weird movies, but like 12 Monkeys stands out there as just like, you know, one of the oddest turns that Bruce Willis has done in a movie. We've got Haley Joel Osment, which this is not his first role, but it's his breakout role to my knowledge. Who plays Cole Sear, child psychic, lonely kid, and has to put up with a lot of ghost bullshit in this movie.
You mean boo shit?
You know the thing.
Bullshit,
You know the
yeah.
thing that got me about the movie when I was watching it, and how Bruce Willis is all even killed, talking to him like he's an adult. I'm like, that doesn't happen.
It's
And,
giving me Michael Jackson.
well, it's not even that, but like the way he talks and interacts with the kid, it's just like that's the thing that it's always a stretch for me when I see little kids interact in these way outside their wheelhouse conversations.
Well, I would agree with you, except for the fact that this kid in particular, with a combination of shit he had going on where he was a psychic, was seeing ghosts, knew stuff that no kid should ever know, like, knew that people were hanging, on the outside of the school that he went to just because, or actually inside of it. But like, I mean, when it was it was a courthouse. Like, you have to grow up quick if you're in a situation like that. There's no way you can be just a kid. Like,
It'll change you.
Yeah. And I gave him a lot of credit for that, because like the fact that the way it was written, like, yeah, he was super intelligent and super above his age, but like given the circumstances, he had to be, because he wasn't going to survive otherwise. I mean, he was basically getting abused by these ghosts, like physically. So Haley Joel Osment has been in actually, he's kind of had a renaissance here lately. I mean, he's been in a bunch of shit recently, but like in, around this time, with this movie, he was like AI. He was in Secondhand Lines. He was in Pay It Forward. One of my funniest things that I've ever seen from anything ever, he was in Walker, Texas Ranger, and hit that one particular line where he tells Walker that he has AIDS. And if you've never seen it, you need to look it up. I mean, particularly the Conan O'Brien version, because Conan O'Brien used to do a thing where he would pull a lever and he would play a random scene from Walker, Texas Ranger, and a lot of them were duds, but the ones that hit like fire. And this was the best one he ever did, because it's taken out of context. It's just sitting there and they're all laughing. I think somebody looks like, it might have been Wilford Brimley, but somebody looks like Wilford Brimley's like next to Haley Joel and then Walker, and they're all laughing in a circle. And then they pause for a second. Haley Joel Osment looks up with a serious look on his face. He's like, Walker, I've got AIDS. And then the older guy looks like Wilford Brimley's like, well, pardon my French, but I'll be damned. And like, that's the scene. That's totally out of context. It's hilarious. Like, it has nothing to do with anything.
Oh my God.
You know what? It's funny you say the movie Secondhand Lines. Dude, that's a hella good movie.
Yeah, it's a good one. I mean, but it's also got, I mean, you got Michael Caine, got Robert Duvall. I mean, and Haley Joel Osment is a great child actor. He was, I guess, at the time. Like, I mean, he just did
he just did a horror movie. I'm trying to think of what it was. Oh man.
There's one I've got later, Clara's Ghost. I don't know if that's one you're thinking
of, but it's another one. Dang it! I wish I could remember it. He ends up getting killed in it.
Here's something you might not know. I didn't realize. He actually has done a ton of voiceovers, and he plays Sora from the Kingdom Hearts games.
And our son is playing that right now. He's
really? I did not know he did Sora's voice.
Yes, that's Haley Joel Osment that's doing that voice.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a huge franchise. And he also does the voice for one of the camp counselors, I think, in the Jurassic World Camp Cretaceous that they've got out right now.
Camp Cretaceous. I love that show. It's actually pretty good.
But yeah, I mean, I saw that and just all the different voice acting roles that he's done, and I was just like, this is kind of crazy that I didn't realize he's been in all this stuff recently.
Yeah, he's going to be in he's going to be in a Ninja Turtles movie too. That I don't know if it's out yet or coming out this year. Oh yeah, it's on Netflix. Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the movie.
Okay.
So he's still active.
He was on a Hulu series that was pretty good called Future Man. Like, he played kind of the pseudo bad guy in that, I believe. Did a really good job, We have Toni Collette playing Lynn Sear, who's a single mother, worried for her son, and extreme skeptic. I mean, you see all that shit happening around you, and you still refuse to believe that.
That's a young Toni Collette, man.
Oh, and a MILF. Let's just throw it out there. She's pretty hot in this versus, I mean, like what you see later. She's been in Little Miss Sunshine, Knives Out, The Box Trolls, Hereditary, which is
Little Miss Sunshine has Little Miss Sunshine has the ultimate twist at the end when she sings the song. I'm like, what the fuck? I did not see that coming.
She was in a biopic or fictional biopic movie about Hitchcock, Alfred Hitchcock, and then she was in Fright Night. She played the mom in that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
remake, of course.
Yeah, the remake.
And she was in Krampus, as we've already discussed, and she played the mom in that. So she's kind of pigeonholed into that mom role. It seems like.
Didn't she play the mom in Hereditary? Yeah, I was gonna say I have not seen Hereditary yet, but from what I know, she played the mom in that.
Oh yeah, she's out there in that movie. We have Olivia Williams playing Anna Crow, who's the unhappy wife ? Cheating bitch ? And then haunted by her husband ultimately. And then she was in a movie called The Ghost Rider. And then, of course, her biggest role that most people know her from, other than this, is Rushmore, because she played, I think, the love interest at both Bill Murray and I can't think of his name.
Owen Wilson,
the main actor. What's that?
Not Owen Wilson. Who? It was
It was the kid, but the I can't remember his name. He's like the son of the lady who played Adrian in the original Rocky movies. I know that about him, but I can't remember what his name is. Jason something.
Hold on, I'm looking. Let's see. Jason Schwartzman.
Yeah. He's kind of like she's the teacher, and he's got the hots for her in that movie, and then but Bill Murray's the one that I think if I remember right that she's kind of hooking up with or something.
That's the one where he's a med student.
Yes, or portrays that he's a med student. Yeah.
They're OR scrubs. Oh, are they?
Oh, are they? That's the only scene in that movie that I got a half chuckle, or that I half chuckled at. I don't know, something about the Wes, or is it Wes Anderson? Anyways, those films, their humor does not hit me right. Everybody talks about how they're the funniest.
That means you didn't
ever,
like Steve Zissou, Life Aquatic?
I couldn't get into it, man.
Dude, that movie is so funny. Everybody gets a pistol.
It's I don't know. I like my comedy dumb. Will Ferrell's my level of comedy.
I like that sharp comedy that you can't really tell if it's a joke or not. It's borderline, is what?
The funny thing is, it's really dumb, or I like it really dries in the British style of humor. Python, but I feel like the Rushmore and all those movies like that are in between, and they're just they miss me every time.
Well, it's hard to find the jokes in those because it's absurd type of behavior. So you're like, is that a joke or are they serious?
Yeah, the way the world that they're playing it in is so absurd. It's you don't know if they mean it as a joke or not. And of course, we got Donnie Wahlberg in this playing Vincent Gray, who plays the troubled man at the beginning of the movie that actually shoots Bruce Willis's character. And
that was Donnie Wahlberg?
Yeah,
that was Donnie Wahlberg.
Whoa!
He lost 40 pounds to play that character.
Dude, I did not know that was Donnie Wahlberg.
I didn't either until I started fixing the notes up, and I kept hearing people say that they keep being surprised that he's in this movie, but that's him.
That's wild.
He was in the movie the first movie by James Wan called Dead Silence, and he was also in Saw 2 and Saw 3, and of course, New Kids on the Block. I mean, that's what everybody would know him from otherwise. But
currently on the mixtape tour, and if you are a child of the 80s and the 90s, you need to go on that fucking tour. I went on it a couple years ago. Fucking amazing.
Does he serve or does he have Wahlburgers souvenir stuff outside the show whenever he comes out of it?
No, but fun fact, Daphne and I almost went to Wahlburgers in Las Vegas because he has in fact, we almost sat down and ate and we're like, we got shit to do, let's go.
Yeah, I like Donnie Wahlberg. He's did a lot of really good movies.
Listen, Mark Wahlberg is a peacock, and you got to let him fly, folks. That's all you got to know. You got to let him fly.